Hello, YouTube world. Hello, YouTube world. Alright, hello, YouTube world. This is Nicholas Montez here, and today we're doing the third video of my Marvel list. Today we are doing a Spider-Man animated movie Spider-Man animated TV shows list. Let's go and get started with this list. My list is probably gonna be different from a lot of you guys because a lot of you love Spider-Man animated shows and a lot of you have different opinions on them. So let's just go ahead and get started. Just kicking things off with Spider-Man 67, or as we like to call it, Earth 67. And I think that this is a decent enough show. I think the theme song is so iconic that it's in every single Spider-Man thing to date. Whether it's live action movies and other animated shows, it finds its way to be in there. I love all of the memes that they use from this show. It is just so iconic. However, when it comes to the actual plot and story and the classicness of it, it's not really an enjoyable Spider-Man show. So, therefore, I'm going to have to put this show somewhere in the D tier. Or actually, I'm going to put it in the C tier just because I like the theme song and it's enjoyable for memes. But when it comes to the characters and stuff like that, yeah, it's pretty lame. But it is kind of enjoyable for what it stands for. Then we have Spider-Woman, which is basically Jessica Drew's version of the character. And I'm not going to lie, it basically bogs down. Doesn't really have anything interesting to offer. I believe Peter Parker makes a cameo in this one. But honestly, it's just not as interesting. And I just hate those shows that just do not really add anything from the comics. I mean, they do, but like, it's straight from the comics to the page. And it's in classic colors and animation. And it's just not as interesting. So, they don't really find any interesting, cool way to adapt it. So, I wasn't really interested in this. I didn't really like it as much. So, I'll put this one in D. Then we have Spider-Man 1981. This one kind of falls in the same vein as Spider-Woman and Spider-Man 67. But it's kind of better than both of them. I'm going to put it in C just because it's Spider-Man and it handles it right, so I'll do that. Then we have Spidey and His Amazing Friends. This one, I actually enjoyed a little bit more than the others. I would actually say this is one of the better Spider-Man animated series. Now, it is not anywhere near as being close to the top tier or anything like that, but if we are comparing it to Spider-Man 67 or Spider-Man 81, it's a bit better than those shows. So I'm going to put this one in C tier as well, even though I don't really want it to be. We'll see how the rest of these series go. Okay, then we have Spider-Man the Animated Series, so I'm actually going to put this one in the B category. I actually really enjoyed this show. I thought, I have praised that I'm not like the biggest fan of X-Men 97 of X-Men the Animated Series. I mean, I liked X-Men the Animated Series. I liked it. I just wasn't as big of a fan of it because I think the way that they told the story it just feels too simple of the comics being stripped on the page to the show. And with and I didn't really know much about X-Men until that show. But with Spider-Man the Animated Series, I know what to expect. And I kind of like the way they adapted certain things. So, certain adaptations were actually kind of cool. I especially like the last episode where we're going to our real time and Spider-Man meets Stan Lee. And it gets left off with that cliffhanger of where is is Peter going to find Mary Jane? I can't wait for that if we get a Spider-Man 98 with Marvel Studios. That would be awesome, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Then we have Spider-Man Unlimited. What a wasted potential of this show, because it had an interesting concept of like this futuristic Spider-Man that like something happened to him, and there were all these fun and colorful characters, and it just kind of was uninteresting. And hold up, drink. To where it's like none of the characters were interesting. The only thing that was kind of interesting was the Spider-Man suit in here, but it was all just ruined by just one not very good season. So I'll still put it in the D tier just for its cool designs, but was not a big fan of this show. Then we have Spider-Man, the new animated series. This one I also think was not really great. I feel like the animation was kind of the worst part about it, and therefore I couldn't really connect with any of the characters in this show or any of the storylines, and so therefore I had no connection to this show whatsoever. So I'm gonna put this one in the D tier as well. But it's gonna go to the top because I think there are some redeeming qualities from it, but I can't really name them. But for right now, it's the best of the D tier, but that's not saying much. Then we have possibly the best Spider-Man animated series, The Spectacular Spider-Man. This is easily the best Spider-Man cartoon that I've ever seen, and easily it is going in the A tier. There is something just so special about Spectacular Spider-Man, and the way that Spider-Man the Animated Series did something cool with certain things, with like the Spider-Verse and bringing us into the real world, and especially with certain villains, this show perfects the iconic isms of Spider-Man, whether it comes to the Green Goblin arcs, to Kraven the Hunter, to Venom. And besides all the villains and stuff, I think this show balances the Peter Parker aspects in his life and the Spider-Man adventures, while they are fun in it of itself and they're great Spider-Man experiences. You can also see how these great experiences of being Spider-Man and saving people's lives can also have an occurrence on Peter Parker's real life. And the writing of all of the characters, from the villains to the high school characters, the fact that Peter was able to get many girls, from Mary Jane to Gwen to to Liz, to all these people, even Black Cat. There's so much creativity from that. And even when it comes to the action sequences, the theme song hits so hard. There's so much creativity with this show. And honestly, I hope that this is another show that we get a season 3 from. So I love Spectacular Spider-Man. Then we have Ultimate Spider-Man. Now, I can admit its faults in that it's one of these Disney XD Marvel shows that doesn't really work because it's very corny, and, you know, hold on. Sorry, I had a little interruption. But yeah, people kind of were disappointed from this show when it came on. As for me, I have a little bit of a soft spot for it because this was basically the Spider-Man show that I grew up with, and I grew up with Drake Bell's Spider-Man, and I really liked his performance. I think that as this is the Spider-Man that I grew up with, this is also the versions of the characters I grew up with. This is the show that kind of introduced me to a lot of the Spider-Man lore, with like Luke Cage and White Tiger and Iron Fist and Nova. I wouldn't have known about Luke Cage or Iron Fist when I watched the shows if it weren't for this show. I also wouldn't have known about White Tiger for Daredevil Born Again, or a version of White Tiger for Daredevil Born Again, if I didn't watch this show. I also wouldn't have known about the Spider-Verse or Miles Morales or Agent Venom or Iron Spider because of this show. So even though it's pretty corny and it doesn't work for everybody, for me as a young kid that grew up in the 2010s, or at least late 2000s, early 2010s, this was my Spider-Man show. Now, and I also like the way they handle certain characters. Like, I like the way they did Agent Venom, and I like the way they handled the Spider-Verse. My problem with this show is I feel like certain storylines, it feels a little wonky at times when it comes to, like, the Doc Ock storyline. I really like the Scarlet Spider storyline. I thought that storyline was pretty great, and learning about Ben Reilly and stuff and the clones. All that was really cool. I think all the Green Goblin and Doc and Norman Osborn stuff was a little weird at times. And the fact, and also, I wasn't a big fan of Spider-Man working for S.H.I.E.L.D. most of the time. Well, actually, two things. I wasn't a big fan of Spider-Man breaking the fourth wall multiple times. And I also wasn't a big fan of Spider-Man happening to work for S.H.I.E.L.D. and him being in, like, a S.H.I.E.L.D. school. That never really sit well with me, and that Phil Coulson is, like, his teacher, and this kind of, like, took place during, like, the MCU. They took, like, things of the MCU or something like that. It was just kind of weird in the way they did certain things, so I have a soft spot for it, but I am going to put it in the B tier still. Just because it brings back a lot of memories, even though I can admit it's very corny. And then we have Marvel's Spider-Man. Now, I have my own issues with this show in that I hate, and I mean it, I hate the character designs for this show. I think with the way that they have designed all the characters, from their looks to the way that their muscles are built, these characters do not look like they can fight off bad guys. Peter Parker in this show does not look like he could fight off bad guys. But I will say, when it comes to some of the action sequences, it's pretty awesome. The way they introduce certain characters. And honestly, this is actually one of the more clever stories in Spider-Man history, to where it's able, like, unlike Spectacular Spider-Man, where Spider-Man is just the main character and he's saving the city, this one is able to actually have Spider-Man as our main hero, but he's able to have his own sidekicks alongside him. So you're able to bring in Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and Spider-Woman with Anya Corazon, and it's all able to work without doing the multiverse trick, which that's basically what Ultimate Spider-Man did, and I believe also Spider-Man the Animated Series. Well, they did multiverse, but they never had Miles or Gwen Stacy Spider-Man. But this show actually, like, brings those characters in, and it's done uniquely, and it's done fun, and I like their character arcs and stuff, and I like their stuff. I think the best thing about this show is when we get into all the Doc Ock stuff, and he becomes Superior Spider-Man, and how it, like, affects, like, the view of Spider-Man with, like, the Avengers, and, like, oh, this is getting really good. And then I was just a little disappointed by season 3, when basically it's just another symbiote attack invasion, and it was like, what, 6, 7, 8 episodes, and yeah, it kind of felt unfinished. But I won't lie, I did kind of end up liking this show by the second season, and because I just loved the way they did it, as they, like, tired Peter out just so Doc Ock can get into Peter's mind and his body. That was just really clever, and I just did not see it coming. So I'm going to put this one in the A tier, even though it has some of the bit corniness, like Ultimate Spider-Man, but I would say the way they handle certain things is done a lot better than this show. Then we have Spidey and His Amazing Friends. So this is basically like the Disney Junior version of Spider-Man with Miles and Gwen, and they're stopping Spider-Man villains and stuff like that. I think it's simple, plain fun. If you think about it, it's kind of like if Marvel is doing the PJ Masks, which is another Disney Junior show that I think was pretty cool, especially since they actually started increasing the team members of that team in the show. Which I haven't even seen it, but I've seen a few episodes of PJ Masks before. And honestly, I think the thing I really liked about Spidey and His Amazing Friends is the first season. I mean, like we only got like the team is only fighting like a few members of the Spider-Man villains, but then I liked as by each season gets, we're fighting different villains along the way, so it gets a little bit more exciting along the way. I'm not a big fan of these characters using like big tech and stuff like that. They're turning into dinosaurs or whatnot, and some of these villains are a bit kiddish at times. But at the same time, it does kind of work for me because it's PJ. It feels like Marvel's version of PJ Masks, which is kind of what makes it work. And the theme song is kind of catchy too. And kind of seeing Peter Parker and Aunt May do this, it just kind of works for me. So I'm going to put this one in the C category. Yeah, I'm going to put it there. And finally, we have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the new animated Spider-Man show on Disney+. And I think it's pretty good. I can't say that it's the best animated Spider-Man show. I think there's a lot of great writing to it. I think the way they developed the characters and I like the way the conflicts developed and the action sequences kept getting better and all that stuff. I think when it came to the final 2 episodes, it just became a little bit underwhelming, and I think some of the reveals were not exactly as exciting or interesting to me. But all the stuff they're setting up for seasons 2 and 3, I'm actually very much excited for. So therefore, I can actually say I liked this show, but I kind of wish it did something a little bit better. But that is all I'm going to say, and I'm going to put this one in... I'm going to put this show in... Gonna put it in the C tier, middle C tier. This probably is a hot take for most of you guys. I know you're probably yelling at me in the comment section, but it's, for me, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is a better show. I'm sorry. I might change my mind if I like Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2 better, but we'll see what happens. But that is my review that is my tier list for all the Spider-Man animated shows. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.